live streaming for all those who are here today.
Biggest city in the world.
The biggest from the, Paul always says from the biggest city.
Here in Cairo.
We are now live. Good afternoon, everyone. We are now live in the boardroom in St. Brighton, New Brighton. We are live in the boardroom in New Brighton, and we are now live on YouTube. So please be aware that our meeting is being live streamed. I'm Jackie, and I will be chairing the meeting today. If we'd all like to stand for our opening flag, please. Whakataka te hau, ki te uru. Whakataka te hau, ki te tonga. Kia ngā kina ke uta. Kia ngā taratara ki tai. Ihi aki ana te atakura. He tio, he huha, he huhana. Ki he mauiora. Thank you, everyone. Our first item is apologies. We do have an apology from Alex and an apology from Yanni for lateness. He is currently on Zoom, and our chairperson Paul McMahon is also on Zoom for the presentations today. So can we have him bring it in? No, we don't need to do that today. So our first item is the Linwood Regeneration Support Draft Framework. I'm having trouble with my words now, tripping over my teeth.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Angie Nelson. I'm a planner with the Urban Regeneration team, and I'm seated with Carolyn Bonus, the team leader of Urban Regeneration. And today we're presenting an update on the Linwood Regeneration Support Project and giving you an overview of the draft Linwood Neighborhood Regeneration Framework. So Linwood is a priority area for regeneration support under a number of programs. It's on the western edge of the Eastern Regeneration Priority Area in the Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan, was identified in a 2020 Council resolution, and is in the current unit activity plan. It's also part of the next tranche of local area planning in the Otatahi Christchurch Planning Program. The key aims for this project are to support Linwood to be a desirable location for existing and future businesses and residents, achieve a livable, inclusive, attractive, and safe neighborhood, and support residents to feel a strong sense of identity and community. We've taken a more agile approach to local area planning by developing a neighborhood regeneration framework. This is intended as a starting point for a work program. The framework outlines the broad direction of travel, which allows us to respond to existing opportunities in the short term, while also identifying and planning for longer term projects, with flexibility to respond to changes and new information along the way. The project is focused on the residential area around and including Eastgate Commercial Center. It's defined loosely by the area of high density housing, but with a fuzzy edge to allow some flexibility. The project sits in the Waitai and Waipapa Community Board areas, but predominantly lies in the Waitai Community Board, and so is also in the area covered by the Weaving the East project. The framework aligns and builds on the work currently underway by the Weaving the East team, but this project has a more tightly focused location and a wider scope for placemaking and neighborhood development. Previous briefings with the two community boards occurred back in November 2024. This diagram is a quick summary of the process being used and how this project fits with the Weaving the East project. The Linwood project is shown in the top in the blue, and the Weaving the East project is shown in the bottom in green. Information sharing between the two projects has commenced and is ongoing. The Weaving the East team is currently undertaking surveys, and it's important that they conclude this work before our team starts more focused engagement on the Linwood framework. However, based on the information we already have, we can see the potential for supporting some low-risk, shorter-term projects labeled here as quick wins, using existing staff and budget resources. Following engagement, we'll refine the framework based on what we hear from the community and seek funding through annual plan and long-term plan processes for any larger projects. The starting point for developing the framework is what we already know about the community. And key to this is what we've already heard through past engagement activities, such as the Life in Christchurch neighborhood surveys and the recent annual plan submissions, as well as through informal discussions with residents and local groups. To guide where we focus our energy, we've undertaken assessment of the Linwood neighborhood using the Great Neighborhoods Assessment Tool, which takes a comprehensive approach to considering the strengths of the neighborhood. This tool helps provide both a baseline and a starting point for identifying where we might focus any key moves. It has 5 themes: a flourishing natural environment, secure and thriving land uses, strong sense of housing for everyone, and easy and enjoyable to get from A to B. Under each theme, there are 3 elements which we've scored using data such as water quality reporting, building consent data, commercial center performance, and neighborhood surveys. The stars on the diagram show the key areas that may need renewed focus. These are clean and accessible waterways, prosperous economy and supporting community infrastructure, strong identity and sense of place, suitable quantity and location of housing, and a highly connected and accessible neighborhood across a range of modes. We've also looked at the many opportunities for regeneration in Linwood. It has a great location near the central city and the coast. It has an abundance of parks and reserves, which could benefit from improved connectivity. Property prices are more affordable than many other neighborhoods, and it has sought-after redevelopment features. Many of the streets are wide with berms, creating opportunities to add street planting. It's also recently benefited from investment in new assets. It has several community gardens. There's also an opportunity to build on existing community connections to enhance the identity of the neighborhood. Eastgate Mall has also recently been purchased, and there's opportunity to work with the new owners to improve the mall and its surroundings. The neighborhood has good access to public transport and a strong cycle link, but there's opportunities to further improve accessibility through the neighborhood. The community is environmentally aware, and there's already momentum around improving the Linwood Canal. And there's investment plan for nearby recreational assets, such as Avon Park and the Otakaro-Avon River corridor, which could be better connected to the neighborhood. This project also builds on the range of individual projects that are already planned or underway in this location. So we previously held a workshop with teams from across council to identify planned projects within the neighborhood and discuss regeneration opportunities. The map here shows the most recent version of this mapping of planned projects. The majority of the currently planned projects are transport focused, including street renewals and carriageway and footpath resurfacing projects. There's also the Te Aratai cycleway connection and many improvements planned for Linwood Park. We've also highlighted the missing footpath adjacent to McDonald's along Linwood Ave, which has recently been added to the new footpath program, which will be coming up soon to council to sign off. As part of developing the draft framework, we've prepared a spatial concept, which we're eager to get feedback from the community about. The spatial concept builds on the capital work already completed and further currently planned projects. The concept identifies 4 areas, which have different areas of focus for regeneration initiatives, which align with the themes of the Great Neighborhood Assessment. So the first area is the neighborhood core. This encompasses the commercial area, Linwood Ave School, Linwood Park, and the council-owned land east of the park, which includes the Smith Street Service Center. The focus for this area is on enhancing the vibrancy and resilience of the commercial center and the amenity of the neighborhood core, creating safe and accessible travel routes within the core, enhancing the identity and sense of place, and improving natural features and open space. Next area is the key network connections. These extend along major roads and cycleways out from the core. The focus for these is on connections to improve safe and convenient travel options, support travel with wayfinding, and establish high amenity routes that enhance the identity of the neighborhood. The next area is the potential green corridor, which extends north toward the Otakaro-Avon River corridor from the commercial center. It's just shown indicatively here. This area has a focus on enhancing neighborhood amenity and identity, increasing biodiversity through tree planting, and providing access to recreational resources along a high amenity active travel route. And finally, the high density residential area has a focus on supporting quality and affordable housing, enhancing neighborhood amenity and identity, improving walkability, and increasing resilience to natural hazards. Additional key moves will be identified through engagement to create a comprehensive vision for regeneration. The draft framework is structured around the 5 themes of the Great Neighborhood Assessment. Under each theme, we've identified several intended outcomes and potential initiatives or project ideas. At this stage, these are intentionally high level and will provide a stimulus for engaging with the community. As mentioned previously, some of these can potentially move forward in the short term, while others will need to be planned for in annual plans and long-term plans, with potential for community board plans to support these. In the next few slides, I'll go a bit deeper into the 5 themes and the potential initiatives that have been identified so far. The first theme is the flourishing natural environment. This theme is focused on improving natural features, enhancing biodiversity, and community involvement in caring for the natural assets in the neighborhood. Potential project ideas include enhancing open space, for example, through partnerships with community groups, as well as looking for opportunities to make use of council-owned land for community outcomes. Another idea is neighborhood greening. This would involve increasing tree planting, which could look to make connections between planned street renewals in the neighborhood to create a network of green streets, as well as greening at key gateway sites or along major roads. Another idea is to create a green biodiversity corridor between the commercial center and the Otakaro-Avon River corridor. And we've also considered working with the community on strategic planning and improvements to the Linwood Canal, such as planting, setting up weirs for eels, and educational signage. The next theme is housing for everyone. This theme is focused on creating an attractive residential environment, ensuring a diverse range of housing options, including quality and affordable homes, and supporting residents to remain in the neighborhood as they age. Potential project ideas include providing early advice to influence housing outcomes, proactively investigating opportunities for quality high-density housing, for example, by discussing future intentions with landowners and sharing design guidance with developers, exploring opportunities to diversify housing stock through discussions with housing providers, both private and public, and exploring opportunities for mixed-use development in the commercial center and with the new owners of Eastgate Mall. The third theme is easy and enjoyable to get from A to B. This theme is focused on establishing safe and pleasant network connections and a network design that encourages walking, cycling, and use of public transport. Potential project ideas include improving the amenity of neighborhood and center gateways and entries to parks. This might include murals, bridge artwork, sculptural art features, or new planting. Another idea is to install wayfinding to highlight safe routes between key destinations in the neighborhood. As previously mentioned, we're also looking to undertake strategic planning to identify an active travel high amenity route for connecting the commercial center to the Avon River corridor. We're also looking at improving the safety and levels of service for pedestrians and cyclists in the Eastgate Mall surrounds, such as through cycle parking, improving cycle links, new and improved footpath connections, and improving the safety of pedestrian crossings. A final project for this one is investigating opportunities for mid-block connections to make the neighborhood more walkable and improving through access for some reserves. The secure and thriving land use theme is focused on creating a vibrant commercial center, ensuring community infrastructure is accessible, and lessening natural hazard risks. Potential projects include encouraging mixed-use development in the commercial center, working with the new owners of Eastgate Mall to help them understand how they want to invest and find ways to support that. Supporting the wider commercial area, for example, with vacant interior activations and redevelopment planning, and sharing information about natural hazard risks in the early stages of redevelopment planning. Larger project ideas include working with the mall owners to explore larger scale permanent development opportunities, exploring options for redeveloping or repurposing the Smith Street Service Center, and supporting future council-led adaptation planning. The final theme is strong sense of community. This theme is focused on residents feeling safe and connected, the neighborhood having a positive identity, and increasing the visibility of cultural narratives in the urban environment. Potential project ideas include developing promotional material for Linwood, collaborating with community groups on neighborhood events, building on existing momentum to improve the canal by supporting community efforts, undertaking placemaking activities in collaboration with the community, exploring mechanisms to express stories, values, and historical experiences of Mana Whenua and other groups in public spaces, and collaborating with landowners and community groups on options for a public square or open space to support community gathering and events. At present, we're also working with staff across other teams in council and looking at how we can add value through opportunities for project alignment, along with some potential early low-risk projects using business as usual resourcing. There's a few examples of this shown on the screen, but as the framework is still draft, these are indicative thoughts only at this stage. Regarding next steps, we'll receive feedback on the framework from both community boards, incorporate this and any relevant findings from the Weaving the East surveys into the framework. We'll then liaise with our partners and commence community engagement with the intention that this will occur in October, November of this year. We'll then revise the framework based on the community's feedback and get the document signed, polished up, following which we'll return to the community boards and council in 2026 to seek endorsement of the framework.
Okay, thank you. You've been given some questions from McMahon, which we've worked through those first, and then we'll go to the board. So I think you've stated that you are working with the Weaving the East project, so there shouldn't be any duplication of projects, so that's fine. So do you have any specific short-term projects that could start within existing budgets?
On this slide, we've highlighted some of the short-term projects that we've been starting investigations for. Our colleague Jack is actively discussing the mural with some community members in the Waitai School. Through our case management team, we're beginning conversations with them all. We're looking at a couple sites that could potentially have street trees, start some investigations for that, looking at underground services, whether that's feasible. And we've also been coordinating with McDonald's on the footpath improvements, which could be funded through the new footpath program.
Excellent. And the next one he had was, how will Mana Whenua and community groups be embedded in the decision making? And then going out to consult and talking with them, but Mana Whenua, have got anything online?
Yeah, so we're making arrangements to meet with Fitiora shortly after this to get their feedback on the framework.
Excellent. And what measures are you going to use to ensure Eastgate Mall redevelopment will deliver genuine community benefit? We're all very interested to see what's going to happen because the mall is like becoming quite empty now, with a lot of retailers are leaving and it's never very busy. So we're interested to know what they may bring in with community benefit.
Yeah, and we don't have anything specific on that yet, but we are working with our case management team on that.
Okay. And his last question was, are you working with the urban forest planting plan to prioritise the planting?
Yep, so the urban forest plan is a key kind of piece of background work for this that we hope to be helping to deliver with tree planting.
Excellent, thank you. Questions? Yanni, then Joe?
So just trying to understand when the council resolution will come back to council from the annual plan. We had a resolution in the annual plan, which would include potential prioritizations. So it's a bit like to the point, like when will we be at a stage where we know what money is required for what projects that we can currently do? This is what we could bring forward.
Mm-hmm.
That was supposed to be held in July 25.
Yeah, thanks. So this diagram, which you might have missed being on your way in.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So basically what we're showing here is that we're working through the process of engagement over the next few months so that we can get the direction of travel that is indicated in the framework a little bit more clear, and that will help to inform any annual plan, long-term plan decision making. So by doing some work now, we'll be able to help get that prioritisation sorted in time for LTP decisions. It's our intent.
So basically what was supposed to happen like in July, like last month, is now delayed for a year and a half to the LTP. So
the request to bring through some work on Linwood has been actioned, and that's what we're doing today. And we had been asked to make sure that we were building in first the work from Weaving the East before we progressed this further. So that's how the timeline has, I guess, lined up.
I guess like the concern is that there's current projects underway where there'll be no further engagement and will simply be done to the community without any framework, any thought to the high level synergy with other projects that may come in the future. Like, for example, the MCR, which we can't talk about in public, we know goes not to the mall, but turns off before it gets to the mall. So how do we get transparency with our community for the work that's currently already being done or planned that they won't know much about? And how does that, like, how does transport feed into that? Sorry, I know it's a bit of a frustration because since you came in November last year, I've been raising the need to have a joint up approach that hasn't been done, and now these projects have been approved and are just going ahead. And we had Chelsea Street the other day that the board actually deferred because we're becoming increasingly concerned at the intensification and the lack of thought around what we do.
And that's I guess part of the purpose of this framework is to look at what has already been agreed previously before we pick this up, how we can work towards getting a number of different projects aligning to give that overall picture for the area, for the neighbourhood, because to your point, you could look at each individual one and say, well, that's one project, but how does it link in with everything else? That's part of the purpose of doing this work, so that we can.
So have you got a commitment from transport that we can meaningfully engage in our community around the biggest expenditure that we've currently got on budget?
We have members of the transport team on our work program, and we are aiming to work with them closely on the projects that they are doing as well.
So I've been told that there will be no community consultation or further engagement.
I can't speak to individual transport projects. You'll need to have someone from the transport team advise.
But from a high level point of view, would it not make sense to work with the intensification that's happening and to work with transport and actually look at the plans that have been developed, recognise the change that's occurring and think of it more higher, like helicopter level?
That is what this does. This helicopters up and looks across the entire area, looks at what's happening, what is the intensification that's happened, what is proposed to be zoned going forwards, how does this link up with work that's happening in Otakarava and River Corridor, how can we actually build these key building blocks, take these key building blocks, build them together into a single picture so that when people think, okay, what is Linwood, we have that one picture that we can show.
Okay. So has there been any further discussion around the library? Like, do we know what's happening with the library? Like, I guess I was hoping we would get kind of some very tangible budgets and timeframes for things that we currently have on budget, when they're going to be done, and then a kind of thinking of, actually, we should either push this out or bring this forward, because this is the kind of the benefit of doing so. Okay. So, for example, the library.
I think this is a little bit out of scope at this point, because we're not actually at that point, are you?
We're not there yet.
You're not
yet.
Yeah,
we're at the very, very early stage.
And this was actually delayed, Yanni, because of the Weaving the East project. Because we started the Weaving the East project, this was going, and then we had to bring those two groups to actually start working together, and that pushed things back a little bit. So we're not at the level where you would prefer it to be at.
I guess I find like it'd be hard for the community engagement framework unless there's some very clear specific things. So there's some things in here which are really good, like that they're upgrading the canal, for example, right? Like people can go, yeah, that's cool. But the question of the future of the library is there's nothing.
Okay, we're not actually there yet, Yanni. So yes, that will be coming, but it's not here yet. Joe.
Yeah, just two wee things. I remember when we had the man from McDonald's come to talk to us about footpath, and he was willing to contribute somehow. Is that still, you still in conversation with them?
Yeah, so I met with them on site. It was last week, actually. So we were talking through options, and I think their current thinking is because that footpath section has now been included in the new footpath program, they want to wait and see what funding is going to come from that. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see for that funding.
Okay, and the other thing was with the housing, you've got residents can age in place. Are you talking about the existing homes or catering to get some more intensified housing for elderly, or what is that?
That's kind of about displacement. So like when people get older and they need to move into a retirement village or move into downsized housing, sometimes in their neighborhood that they're in, they might not have those options available. So it's diversifying the housing stock so that people have all those options for all stages of
So you're allowed for smaller single level housing and amongst all that?
I mean, some of it is going to be very developer led in terms of what the market's going to actually deliver, but that's why we want to work with developers on encouraging the housing diversity.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. Celeste, did you have a question? Or
I think it's, thank you for coming along. I was just wondering, in terms of the working across sort of themes approach, I'm not quite sure what the model is for this project. Sorry, I missed the start, but with the New Brighton Malls project, I know it sits with Christchurch Z, but what I found valuable, is that we heard from people working in different spaces, and I wanted to kind of address some of Councillor Johansson's concerns whether there might be an opportunity to kind of have a regular touch point along the process so that not to slow it down, but just to provide that information about what's happening. Because the working group for me was an opportunity for me to just hear about those updates and hear about all those key stakeholders. So while I couldn't directly say what was happening, actually, I think it just meant that we could sort of understand where the opportunities were a bit better. And actually, often the benefit was for the people who are doing the work, but also for elected members, we can sort of actually go, well, actually, this little bit here might need us to bring forward funding for that to be delivered somewhere in the future. Is that something that could be looked at, or we could get a flashback on?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be working with the engagement team to prepare an engagement plan, and that type of feedback is really valuable for building that in. So it's going to be, it can be nice and robust. We'll make sure that we keep you in the loop, whether it's through area reports or other mechanisms. And so, yeah.
And that's a great approach. Do you think there would be something that is that? Because the way it worked for the Benefit Writing Group is actually, it wasn't so much about the engagement, because actually we've only started that. It was actually about the parties feeding into the planning. So it brought together, in this case, private sector, community, and other key groups, transport. But everybody met once a month. So it's basically a working group. Is that something that could be looked at?
Yeah, well, we'll have a look at that.
Yeah.
thanks, Celeste. One quick one, Yanni.
Can I just check? Is there a capacity as part of this process to have actual land use planning rules put in place? Because we've got the intensification and it doesn't have very good urban design, and there's a whole bunch of issues with traffic and cars and flooding. So I just wanted to check, is there an outcome in here that will lead to statutory rules so that, if we want good urban design or things that, work for the community, then there's some protection to make sure that it happens. I'm just concerned that there's a whole bunch of proposed housing going in here that the community have no idea about the scale or the impact. They're currently seeing adverse impacts of what's currently allowed, and yet there could be a whole new thing being allowed as well.
Yeah, we are quite restricted in terms of what can be done with the changes to, there's RMA reforms going through on top of all the various amendments lately that have been quite restrictive to our regulatory planning colleagues in terms of what they can deliver, and that's from a national direction. But if I give the example of when we did the master plan for New Brighton, we actually looked at consolidating the centre there, and that was given effect through the district plan. So depending upon what sorts of things we're looking at, there might be some scope for changes in terms of any zoning, but what we have at the moment is, and what's going through PC14 and so on, that just needs to continue and take its due process, because that's the law. We need to follow it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very, very passionate about this project, so looking forward to how it goes forward. Thank you. Fine. Thanks for coming in.
Like a possible idea, do we want in party to make sure it's like a community working party to make sure that it's being driven and bringing people together?
I think it was a request that it was going to come back, was it?
We'll come back with some advice on that. We did have a working party situation in not situation, but a process in New Brighton and in Sumner when we're doing the master plans for those. So it'd be quite good to have a look back at what we did then, bring forward any learnings and perhaps give you a proposal rather than like try and figure something out right now. That would be all right.
Yeah.
And so people want to give feedback.
My understanding is there is a lessons learned, about that, or like masters involved.
I'm not sure that it's written up as such, but
So that'd be good.
If people,
Yes, but-
people want to give feedback to the framework, but the elected members and people in the community, we just email it.
if you want to give us any feedback before we head through to engagement, that would be useful. So that helps to inform what does head out. So yeah, we'd be grateful for any feedback over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, do you have a timeline for that elected member feedback?
Next couple of weeks would probably be good, aware that you'll then be
You
heading
might not
to
be here, yeah.
election processes. So yeah, and we can pick this up again. Interesting.
So if you can send the feedback, Yanni, and anyone else through Cindy, and then Cindy collate it so you get it in a data package.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Question to staff. Is this heat at cooling us?
No, you may go. We're just feeling a bit cold at the end, yeah.
Yeah. But you have exceeded.
All away. Yeah. So moving on. All right, next.
Yeah.
I'm just turning it up.
All right, our next item,
16.
stop talking. Our next item is the update on CWTP activated sludge plant project. Welcome,
Good afternoon.
Thomas.
Yes, that's correct. I just sent an email around the PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if that one that
We just
want to share.
looking.
Wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah. No, firstly, thank you very much for the invite and be able to present an update on the activated sludge plant. And yeah, my name is Thomas Fitzko. I'm a senior project manager with the 3 water team under Road under the wastewater part. Now today I will give you an update on the wastewater treatment plant upgrade with activated sludge plant. As I will take you through the PowerPoint presentation. And yeah, if you have any question, just come back to me. Now, it's beautiful. Now, what we have been up to, as you might remember, last year, finally we got a decision to proceed with an option that was to construct a new activated sludge plant in November or October, some in that stage. And the goal was to demolish the old treatment filter before Christmas. That has been achieved, and we actually completed the work just around early April. Also, we removed any services that are underway and cleared the area for the new construction. Also, we have done the design for the new plant. As I said, there's quite a bit of work involved in that. As you can imagine, it's a $100 million project. It is not something that takes that quickly to be done. And our partner AECOM, the consultants, have done the design from that perspective. And also we achieved a milestone to release those documents for the tender by end of July, 1st of August. It was a key milestone to really get it on the market. We gone out to the market in November last year, narrowed down to 3 contractors who are in the race with us. And we are expecting to have the tender completed by end of September, early October. See how things go. And yeah, we also awarded the contract for the CMCA. If you're wondering what CMCA stands for, that is for Construction Management and Construction Administration. And that our partner is Becker. And it's really great to see to have them on board, that they're getting themselves under the established and supporting us from that perspective. Now, what is coming up? As I mentioned before, we are working towards to award the contract for the main construction. if everything goes to plan and everything works as intended, then we should have the contract awarded and the contractor starting on site just before Christmas. That means they will start to set up the sites. That means we have a large construction site to be set up with construction village and laydown area. And then we will start with the ground improvement work. The ground improvement work is quite significant, as there will be quite a few columns going in there, approximately 2,000 of stone columns. That is just to mitigate liquefaction in that area, as everything is built like on sand, and we need to make sure that plant is stable there. As I said, what you can see on the picture here is just an example from another plant that is very similar, an active sludge plant. And that is what you will see on the end as well.
How deep are they?
Yeah, it's just on us then.
The pulse will be 18 meters.
Wow.
That means there is quite a bit of work required to get those pulses.
1,600 kilometers. Meters.
As you can see, that is an animation of the new plant. I'm not sure how familiar with are you with the wastewater treatment plant. You got the primary treatment, that is what is existing, and the trickling filter was a secondary treatment. And that active sludge plant is really replacing that secondary treatment with a big concrete structure, a tank with blowers that blows air in there. It is not a new technology that has been around for a long time around the world, and it's very efficient to treat wastewater. As you can see, that is looking from the west, yeah, I think west to the east, and that is how the plant will look like from the outside. It's quite a massive concrete structure, 67 by 67 by 7 meter high. As I said, the team has done a fantastic job. I think it can't be more said. The speed that we worked through the design, getting the design underway, was really just possible with collaborative approach between all parties. We had different contractor consultants working with us and the team from CCC to actually get that designed and accelerated as quickly as we can do that. As we use new technology with 3D modeling and that kind of stuff that has been shared with the contractors as well. They have been kept up to date during that process to ensure that they know when we get into the tenders that they have all that information already in hand. Yeah, as I said, what are the next steps? As you said, at the moment, I talked with Rory yesterday, we can't really have the community meeting at the moment. As we are in a tender process, we are a little bit restricted what we can share and that kind of stuff. We need to be quite mindful, but once we are awarding the contractor, that we assume around October, then we will plan for a community meeting and actually share the information more. We'll also invite, if possible, the contractor to meet them and to actually get the process underway. I know there will be lots of questions around what impact the construction will have. As I said, it will be over 3 years. There will be, as we know, ground improvement with stone columns to be installed, with big machinery driving those columns in there. We have vibration and that kind of stuff. We have vibration monitoring, establishing that kind of stuff. We will do survey around the area. We've done already noise survey and that kind of stuff to ensure that minimizing. We can't avoid the impact to the community, but we try to minimize, and we will ensure we communicate if anything major will occur. Like, as you can see, there's a big concrete structure. We have concrete pours. I don't want to even imagine how much concrete we will pour, but there will be early starts required to get the concrete poured. But we will keep the community up to date, and yeah, just be with us. We're aiming to have that. I think that was one of the questions. We're planning to have that new plant operational by 2028, end of 2028. But as I said, as long as we don't have the contractor on board as such, that's a little bit a good estimate. Once we got the contractor on board, working through the program, then we can give a decent update where we stand when that new plant comes online.
Okay.
And yeah, just follow on that one, there was some questions, what other impact it has to the community. There was a question around some odors and that kind of stuff. Now, the new plant itself and constructing has no impact to the current. The plant itself that we're constructing is almost a greenfield site that will have no impact on the current operation. There is a point when we are starting to tie into the existing process, like tying into the gel and that kind of stuff. There will be windows that we have to actually make some changes to the current process. But again, we will make sure we notify the community and make them aware. We try to keep it as minimum as possible, but that is something that we can't avoid and we will need to work through. But yeah, be with us. We're aiming to have that as minimal as possible as that impact. That is unfortunately, we're trying to establishing a new plant here and make everything better again. No, that is from my side. Is there any questions?
Greg and then Tim, then Yanni.
With the dry level piles, is it anticipated there'll be any damage to any other parts of the plant during that period?
Yes, we will have vibration monitoring established around the site. That means we will do live monitoring and we will do also a survey around the buildings to just check for cracks and see how things going. We already took some levels of the current buildings and the structures around there if there anything happened. There are also nowadays technology out there actually installed the piles. Let's see what the contractor providing, but what we said, we want to keep as a minimum as possible. There are technology out there when you install piles with a very low vibration. And during the demolition of the drinking filter, as some of them remember, when we had to break out those deep foundation from the drinking filters, that was quite a bit of hammering. We had vibration monitoring. Actually, was quite surprised that the vibration actually didn't travel too far away. That actually the sand seems like absorbing most of the vibration quite well. From that perspective, I'm quite positive that actually there will be some vibration, but I think it will be minimal. And with monitoring, we will try to keep on top of that one.
Yeah, but your steps in place to check
Yes.
it goes rather than react.
Yeah, no, that we have plans in place.
Tim?
It's in the same location as where the trickling filters were.
That's correct, yes.
Yanni?
Thank you. Do you know roughly when you're looking to sign the tender contract?
October?
October, yes.
Yes.
Okay, and like when we had the residents meeting, we were given an undertaking when the design was released, we'd have a community meeting.
Yeah.
I think he answered, do we have the community meeting after the tender process is completed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't do it sooner though?
It's just from a sensitivity perspective, we don't want to share any information that could be compromising the tender process. Feel much more comfortable to have the tender process completed, have the contractor on board, and that gives us also a better picture to actually introduce the contractor, our team, and say, hey, that is what's coming. Then we can give us a much better picture, what work is planned, how they want to approach it, and all that kind of stuff. At the moment, it's all a little bit of guesswork until we got the contractor on board.
You're aiming to have the meeting when you're able to answer the questions that may be asked.
Yes,
Yeah, I guess I just feel concerned that we go, in terms of when we talked to that community last, we had the residents meeting. Maybe there's things that they want us to be mindful of before we agree to the tender, that might mitigate some of the concern, like the vibration, for example.
Those are questions that can be asked at the public meeting afterwards in terms of vibration. I don't think it's asking about vibration ahead of the tender is going to be.
Once the contract's signed, it's signed, and it's really hard to go back from it. So, yeah.
We have done a risk assessment, we've done also environmental assessment, we've done noise monitoring, we've done the risk vibration stuff. We've done already the demolition of the drinking filter. We know how the ground behaves and that kind of stuff, noise levels and that kind of stuff. And if we really miss something, there's nothing stopping us to implement those control later with the contractor. If you say, oh, that is actually has a bigger impact than anticipated, and we will talk to the community and say that is a control strategy that we might need to put in place.
And are you expecting any traffic management? I mean, most of it will be contained on the site, so there'll be a
Yes.
few more heavy vehicles going
Yeah,
at some period, but
the contract has a traffic management plan requirement from the contractor to be provided. Again, that is very minimal. There will be periods of time that, especially on the Cuppers Road, towards the pond, when we taking spoils away or bringing concrete. But again, that will be really discussed once they're providing a plan, how to manage that. There will be traffic management control in place. Again, there will be some minor impact, but as you pointed out, the majority is actually on site.
and final question from me, just around the survey of the existing structures. Will there also be a survey of existing properties close by?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Excellent. This last question is, how resilient will be the new design to fire and other risks?
Ooh, how much fiberglass is in it?
How resilient is the new design against fire and other risks? You know, the community's been through an awful lot. I think
Yes.
we want to be able to tell them this isn't going to,
Yes.
not going to happen again.
The new plant, on the end, it is a big concrete box. It does not have any plastic media inside. That means there's water and air gets pumped in.
Mhm.
From that perspective, the fire risk is almost, I'd never say zero. That's what we silly to say. But yeah, it is from that perspective very minimal. From a seismic perspective, as I mentioned, the stone columns are designed for actually taking that risk away. That part of the plant will be the most resilient part of the plant, as the plant itself is from the 1960s. There's a brand new part of the plant that actually has been designed to the newest standard. From that perspective,
It's really good that we're, going to get this contract signed this year and that it's going to start being built. I think the community is going to be happy about that, even if it will take, a few years, but we're underway. So thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Very good.
Right, next item, Parks Rolling Renewal Plan. Friday.
Good evening, everybody. Is this, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, there we go. Right,
Yes, okay. Yeah.
okay. Parks Capital Rolling Renewal Program. So some of you might remember I came out here last year to have a discussion and get some feedback on our last plan. That process from our end worked reasonably well. We are just sort of changing things a little bit this year, whereby I'm going to come back to you all and probably, hopefully December, can kindly fit me in, to get approval on the program. Just an agreement across everyone, because sometimes what we've had with other boards is some people have asked for things to be moved in the program and pushed back, and not everyone has been privy to that information around the table. So just to just get more transparency for everyone, that's the process that we're going to be following this year. So I've got a clicker, excellent. Yeah. So what is the rolling renewal program? So it's a capital expenditure. We use it to refurbish and replace all of our assets and parks to make sure we meet our levels of service. What it isn't is upgrades. So if we're coming through and we're going to renew a garden, we don't then go and expand that garden. We just replace like for like to make sure obviously we're maintaining those service like I mentioned. The budget's set through the LTP process. And it's generally allocated by asset type and different park categories. So we have hard asset renewal, community parks, or green asset renewal, regional parks. So how do we determine? So this is probably, I guess, one of the main questions I get from people is how do you know what you're going to actually go out there and replace? So we use our asset condition rating, and that tells us how each of those assets are performing. So our asset condition ratings run from 1 to 5, where 1 being very good, 5 being very poor. If we're doing things properly, most of our assets should be at 3 and above. And that's sort of where we get our core program of work. So asset condition rating. Safety is another thing that we need to make sure that we've got right. Sometimes we might have an asset that actually is performing relatively well, but for some reason it's presenting some sort of risk, like a defective piece of play equipment, perhaps. Then we also need to understand the community demand. How often are people actually using it? Are they using it all, or are they using it a whole heap? And how critical that asset is to the network. So we might only have one type of that asset throughout the whole parks network. So we need to make sure that it's in really good functioning condition. Is it feasible to even replace that item? Sometimes it is, generally it is. Very rare that it isn't. Project alignment, we need to also consider with our program if we've got playground works happening, if we know all the hard assets and pathways need to be renewed, we do try to package them together as well. It's life cycle, how old is it, and any legal requirements. So on the picture above, it's just a bit of an example of what green asset renewal is. Like I said, it's not anything we're not doing anything extensive beyond what was already there. So on the right-hand side, you can see garden border, I think that's Washington Way Skate Park, a couple of road plants, weeds, old mulch. So the team have come through and they've pruned, often will replace soil, do new plantings, and mulch. The other one that's in the program, the other activity is playground renewals. So playground renewals are a little bit more challenging sometimes. With the program, we don't consult on anything other than playgrounds. So because we do replacing the same, we don't tend to engage, but obviously with playgrounds we do. Now with the like for like that we've tried to get close to, it's not always entirely possible with playgrounds as we've previously established. And that picture at the top there, that's not actually in your area, that's Everleigh Park, but at the top picture you can see a piece of equipment, it's called a Rocktopus. It's the one with the yellow arms. Loads of people love it, we love them, kids can use them, adults can use them. Problem is, they don't make them anymore. And so we've had to come through and an effort to get as far as like to like as we can. We're supposed to like as we can. We've had to install that wee blue spinning thing. So it looks a bit, yeah, it looks a bit different. But when you break it down and you go, okay, what did that old piece of equipment do? It spun around and it had that spinning feature. We try to get close with the features and that it provides. So it might look quite different, but it might have the same sort of playability as the old piece of equipment did. And we bring things into modern safety standards as well. So sometimes things will look quite different, but that's because, we don't just put down swings with no safe fall and things like that anymore. So if we go through to, if we could bring up the program, is there any questions before that? We'll move through. Kelly?
Yeah, just parts, Bridie. Thanks for all the great stuff that you worked through. It's fantastic. Parts going through parks, is that something, whose responsibility would that
Pathways?
be?
Yeah, so that's a part of the hard surface pathway network. So that's one of the programs that we have in this wider program. Nearly every park has them. A lot of the time we find that people sort of create their own little goat tracks, and when we can, we will form those up. That usually comes from development though, because it's a new asset going in, not an existing one that we're going to replace. So often we can't address that issue through this program,
Sure.
but we can through development. And sometimes we'll be doing, say, a hard asset renewal in one of these parks, and we'll notice that actually there's a piece of pathway that should be there because people started walking along it, and we can cover that work under the same contract, but we just use a different budget to pay for that portion.
The reason I ask is because, we've been talking about Tangier Reserve, and we don't have a look yesterday. One of the residents said like a lot of people are passing through there. And I think they're arranging to meet, you're arranging to meet a ranger on site. So that was one of the things they highlighted, the amount of people trying to push prams across the grass. There's no path, and it links up two cul-de-sacs.
Yeah.
So that would be the process.
Development. So that you could, the next decision making meeting, perhaps you could set an action and we can send that through our planning team, to get that on the program.
Okay, Celeste, do you want to ask this?
Thanks for coming in and thanks for all your work and team. I've had a huge amount of positive feedback. I know it's been quite a bit of time to get up to speed and a huge amount of work, but just want to acknowledge that I've had emails and sorts coming through, just acknowledging it, and Parklands, North Beach, all over Spencer Park, Spencerville last night, they commented on the gardens.
Oh, good. Yeah, they did that.
Yeah, so you can just see that what impact it's made. So, the question is around toilets. Does that fit into that fits into types? So,
Buildings, so there's another standalone project. But if you do have any questions about any buildings, do direct them through your governance team and we'll happily answer those. What I'm looking to do, hopefully maybe next year, is because this is sort of, as I'm coming around the boards, we're sort of finding out more and more information that you guys need. That program should probably be included in this next year, so we can talk about it then as well.
and the ones that I'll ask about later on, we'll email through, related to, there was some amendments we put through the annual plan.
Right.
It was about speeding up the upgrades for Parklands.
Okay.
So they were specifically requested as that was in the budget for that, and it was, I think there was something about coming to the board with an update in the end, bringing for funding. Another one would be around the mall as well, what the plan is, like that might be slightly out of, might be more transport.
Yeah, but we've had very little to do down there.
Parklands. Thank you.
Yanni, then Joe.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and talking to us. I'm trying to understand, we're going to get a program of budget, are we, like next?
So you'll get, from here, any assets that you know that you would like to be included in the program, brought forward. That's kind of information that I need. So then I can come back to you and say, yes, we can do that. However, we would like you to maybe nominate a candidate that needs to be pushed back down the program.
Yeah, so previously we got information that the Arden Playground would be one catalyst project that could be deferred or budget taken off and put into Thompson Park. And we gave feedback at the time. I think we supported Thompson Park, but there was a concern that the Arden Playground should actually be actually needs to be done. And I think we've expressed a desire to have some sort of community development type approach where we actually work with the local residents, look at the space, and try and get some progress on it. But I don't quite understand how that feedback gets put into action. And then again, I guess without seeing the budgets, it's hard to know. But I guess
we would need to go out and have a look at, I don't know, again, and probably run another asset condition assessment over it to see where it falls in terms of safety.
I guess what I'm expressing is that I get that there's an asset condition aspect, but there's also a kind of social and a community aspect to some of these areas that are not working for whatever reason. I mean, the other one's Cutler Park, which I've raised for quite a few years now. So I'm just trying to understand at what point do we get a say in terms of, okay, here's what we want to do, and here's the budget that we want to allocate.
Yeah. So the renewal budgets are set at program level. When we understand what we need to deliver, that's when we'll go out and we'll get it priced. So because we need to go to market to get a competitive price. We can't have a budget straight away saying we can only spend this much on this project at the moment. So that it's difficult for me to give you an absolute budget on that one item.
Okay.
I can give you the overall, and when I come back to you, you'll have that breakdown for each of these programs.
Okay, cool. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
And then just the final question from me is, what's happening to the strategic planning? Like we had a board briefing with residents groups around the open spaces play network.
The place-based network plan?
Yeah. And then we've had a skateboard strategy that we've kind of, we were reviewing and getting rid of, and then that was going to integrate into it. But that planning work seems to have just disappeared. And then we've got skate parks, for example, just getting done as business as usual. So I'm just trying to understand, like, what's the higher level strategic planning that we're doing, and why is that work kind of stopped, and how does it feed into the feedback that people have already given?
So it's not stopped. It's sitting with Megan Carpenter from our planning team, and skate is being integrated into that play spaces policy network plan. You'd have to ask perhaps the governance team for a timeline on that. I think it's going to council, so not something I could probably respond to here. I haven't been intimately involved with them, sorry, but we that we should be able to get you a timeline on it. That's helpful.
So,
Hi, just a few things, with the health service, renewals, I think last time when you came here, we mentioned a few of the paths and everything.
Yep.
And I just wanted to question whether they are included. One of them was that, Richard's Walkway next to Sea Eagles.
Yep.
The laneway, is that what you've got that hard surface down for?
Yes,
It is.
yes.
So that's under that, okay. And then there was the path which goes from about Els Terrace through to Admiral's Way.
I'd have to.
I see
Yeah,
a
I
photo of it.
I
and
do
it's quite
remember. I
nasty.
do remember. Yeah, I'll have to go back and come back to you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the plans have that.
And the car parks within QE2, the ones that need renewing, are they under a different budget or are they within that?
It's a standalone project, so
Standalone.
yeah, it would be part of the wider
So is that-
QE2 development.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's just under the playground and the repositioning and sports fields. And does that include the changing facility?
I believe it includes a pavilion, which would be the training facility.
Okay. And with Clover Street hard asset.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one.
Yeah, there's not
We're going to
much
pull that
mud
one
down there.
No, it's all sand. I
Yeah.
think the reason why it's grouped it into at an asset management level, it's just grouped that pathway in with all the others that have hard assets in them. So that one's gonna be pushed out. We're not gonna do flow because it's not required, and we'll have a look at what's next in the program and
Okay.
bring that one along. So I will let the board know of that.
And additional stuff with Thompson Park, I heard that was actually further out in the budget. Is that still meant to be?
What one specifically do you have the asset type? Sorry, this is all run on asset type.
Well, additional play.
Additional play equipment. Yes, it's just not in this renewal program, but we do have that covered under
You do have
development.
that coming up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
okay, thanks, Joe. Kelly?
Yeah, sorry, to bother you again, but just the Tangmere Reserve Playground.
Mhm.
Could it be possible for that to be looked at and put in the program?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, before I come back in December, you've got from now to basically the 1st of December to get me all your candidates in that you'd like to be considered, and then I can come back to you and say, yep, we can do it, but we might need to wiggle some things around. And when it comes to just provide a bit more detail on the condition of the rest of those parks and what impact that might have on those other candidates, and then you can make it.
Well, I don't have any context for
Yeah.
the Tangmere Reserve. A lot of wood looked quite worn and old. But when I saw it at a distance, it was all bright colours and everything looked pretty good all up close. So, would somebody go and assess it and say, hey, look, yes, no?
Yes, we do. We'll go out and do that. So our rangers who do all our playground checks, they can do asset condition checks on those playgrounds as well. And so we would go in and have a bit of a deeper look at that. Sometimes we can just apply a little bit more maintenance, and that would prolong the life of those assets. Ideally, that's what we try to do monthly. Little fixes, try and bring them along.
That makes sense. Okay, so do I send you an email or is it a community board decision?
Sorry,
Sorry to undermine you just a wee bit, could we limit feedback till the 30th of September?
Sure.
Just because obviously with the election period, so if there is any additional information or feedback sought, we've still got
you want to
11 days, so we'll get it before the end of this term. So
Yeah.
after this meeting, if you've got any feedback on the programme, please send it through by the 30th of September, which will give us some time to engage with staff.
Do you want me to email?
Yes, please.
I'll do it like
With the green asset renewal, I'm just thinking like Build Park and Marshall's domain particularly. Does that include irrigation or drainage being put in as part of it, or is it just more of?
It doesn't include irrigation. Irrigation is separate again. There are some things that we can do in terms of drainage, though. Usually drainage would be part of our sports field. If it's related to the sports field, it would be part of a sports field.
Yeah, so Marshall's
renewal.
domain would be that, because in winter it's an absolute bog down there, but
Yeah.
in summer it's barren dead wasteland, so it's kind of like it needs a bit of both.
Yeah.
And like Build Park particularly, it just browned off in the sections that don't have irrigation, and then with a lot of cricket through there, it's pretty hot when you stand in the field for 4 or 5 hours and it's burnt off for young kids.
Yeah, so the Green Asset Renewal doesn't generally address sports turfs. That's a completely different package, and they often will do try to aid drainage through maintenance as well. They do a couple of hits of additional maintenance spring and autumn every year. It will come through the dirty drain that breaks up all the soil a bit more to help drainage. So there are a few things that they do outside of capital to help with that. But I can raise it with the guys.
Anything, Joe?
Thanks. At what point are we going to be briefed on the sports network plan and all the projects that are happening and not happening? And how do we give prioritisation to ones that we think are important?
So I don't know about the sports network plan. That would be something that the government's going to have to come back to the planning team on.
Can we find out? And because like QE2, I'm aware
Can we
that
set that separate from the sports one?
Can you just flick me an email?
Flick an email to
with
Cindy.
Updates you want, please, Yanni.
Done.
Sorry, with mentioning drainage, where does the drainage at Spencer Park fall under?
It would be, it would fit outside of this program.
So there's, okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
sorry,
Just one from me. When you're looking at renewals, how do you assess the equity across different suburbs?
That's a good question. Yeah, so if we were to, when you say equity, do you mean the amount of dollar value we apply to each?
I think it's more not equity so much as usage and having a fair distribution suburb to suburb of playground renewals as opposed to all of the ones in that particular suburb, whereas the other one's going down.
Yeah. Yeah, so when we do look at usage when it comes to renewing assets and age, those are usually the two main drivers, so that we don't end up with one server with lots and lots of new stuff and one without.
Good. Yeah. Okay. And can community priorities like sports facilities, shade and toilets influence the reprioritisation of the renewals?
Yeah, often if we wanted to put new things like new shade, it wouldn't come out of this. But when we are looking at some of the playground renewals, because we do try to bring things into modern standards, although shade is not something that we have to have, we know it's pretty important. Sometimes, actually some of the other boards, just have used their discretionary funding to help fund some shade sales, which has been really helpful. Sometimes we're trialing putting swings and trees now because there's natural shade. And putting, although some people don't like to have playgrounds too close to trees, it does provide shade for families who quite like it.
Yeah. Okay, last one, Yanni. Did you have one more?
So like the Linwood Park and the term Bexley Park are listed in here, but this isn't the time to ask those questions.
Not about the things that she cannot answer. Things, but they don't come into this presentation.
No, well, they are like on the funnel page. So the individual projects containing placeway, screen, hard surface, asset renewals. So I think it would be useful. Like for example, Bexley, I've asked about updates on what's happening there. Is there a way for those three that we can just get some standalone information about the budget, the timing, and where things are at? Because I guess I'm concerned, for example, like in Bexley, things keep slipping, and we don't have governance oversight. And then it's quite frustrating for the community when we tell them, oh, this is going to happen in this year. And then 2 years later, it still hasn't been done.
Yeah. So the reason those individual ones there is because they contain like play or hard or things that relate to what we're discussing today. But yeah, we can get you though an update on those ones, especially Bexley, because I did just meet with the project manager last week.
Great. Okay, thanks.
Cool. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we're going good time, so we'll move right on to the Brighton Mall upgrade. Marcy and Karen.
And we've got Jocelyn as well.
Justin?
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'm going to jump off now. I
Okay.
just wanted to say thank you for asking all my questions that I sent through.
Very good, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, if I may be excused from the table.
You may be excused. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Was that not?
Yeah, it was God, yeah. It was definitely God. Yeah. Tell me off.
We're gonna take them away again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Thank you.
You know,
Oh, wait,
No.
it's not public.
No.
That big paper.
Oh, okay. I see.
That's what complaints are kind of.
parts of it are in the present.
Yeah, I was gonna say the presentation.
So it's all being like.
Yeah.
Oh, right, I'll turn it on as well.
Change the view.
Oh, yeah, I don't even use this one at time. Okay, David, where did that go?
I think
Sorry. Okay. There we go.
Lovely. Kia ora, my name is Marcy McCallum and I'm the project manager on the Brighton Mall upgrade. Just excuse my voice, I've got a very scratchy throat today. This is Jocelyn, she's our landscape architect, and Kieran, who is our engagement advisor. So just firstly, I've handed you a paper copy of the plan. I am going to take them back at the end. The reason for that is there's quite a gap between, we've just come and briefed you early, and then we're going to start our consultation in December, so there's a bit of a gap. So there's a chance that there'll be a few small tweaks to the plan, so we'll send you an updated one in November, so you'll have it well ahead of consultation.
I apologise in advance for writing your names on there.
Oh no, that's okay, that's all right. That is all right. Lovely. Okay. So the New Brighton Centre Master Plan identified the pedestrian mall as a key area for renewal to support the regeneration of the town centre and encourage private development in Brighton. And this is funded through the long-term plan that was back in 2012. In 2019, when they did the community engagement of the streetscape works on Marine Parade, they asked some questions about what the community would like to see in the mall, and the key themes were seating, safety, lighting and rubbish management. So we've taken that into consideration when we've drafted our plan. The primary objective of this project is to create a welcoming and safe environment for everybody, and make it feel safer, because at the moment the feedback that we've had is people don't feel safe using the space, and it's intended to attract both the local community and visitors. So these aren't very good photos, but it just sort of highlights for people that may not be aware of what the current condition of the mall is. It's pretty grey and bleak on a lot of cloudy days. There's a lot of asphalt, it's very patchy. There's often ponding and puddling issues around, bit of ad hoc furniture placement, and yeah, lots of graffiti and windows boarded up. There are some very awesome murals along there though. So this slide is just to highlight all the really good things that are happening out in this area. As you're probably aware, the Village Green is now under construction and they're expecting to finish that in December of this year. Southboard's open and apparently doing very well, so that's really positive. Martini Investments, Pierside developments are underway. They've started with the Oramav shops, and they're working through their plans for the other sites at Pierside and the former Wave Bar site. There's a number of new businesses that have opened in the area, and we've got our laneway at 56 Brighton Mall. The massive draw cards in this area are obviously the hot pools and the destination play space. And we have people come every single week out to the New Brighton Seaside Market. So it's good to see that there's positive energy coming back into the area.
Right, my turn. So the summary of the key features in the landscape plan is the upgrade to the paving, which will align with the Marine Parade colours and the design as well, that will be pulled through into the area. So the old asphalt will all disappear and we'll have nice paving through there. There'll be an upgrade to the seats and upgrade to street lighting, as well as some new CCTV cameras that'll go on some of the lighting poles as well. New rubbish bins, bike stands and signage. There's going to be a sort of creation of a central gathering area. So we're proposing to take out, maybe if the community allows us, two Phoenix palms that are in the middle. So if you have a look at the bottom plan there, it shows the two that are, and why we've picked this space is it's between the village green and the South Port Brewery. So it's just opening up that space to use, and we'll be working in with Whitiora for the cultural artwork on that area, hopefully. And one of the other suggestions is the removal of the one fish playground that is actually looks like it's a little bit worse for wear. So, but we'll be consulting on that as well. And then there will be an upgrade of the drains along each side. So the greater drains that are there at the moment aren't particularly in good condition. So we'll be replacing those and increasing the capacity of the water in them. So this just explains a bit more detail of what I've just gone over. So there's those two trees in the top photo there are the ones that we're proposing to remove. There'll still be the 10 remaining, so there's still plenty there. And this will help create that central space that will become a multi-purpose area so that people can gather there and have events and things. And that, as you can see, leads on to the village green below. So I think that's everything there. So yeah, if there's any concern with the trees being removed, we can always look at other options. So this is just a concept plan at this stage. So the paving will be, we will use the colours and the design that has already been strongly included in Marine Parade, and that was with our cultural narrative from Matapopuri. So we're bringing in the rope design and bringing that right through the into the mall. So we'll be able to see that clearly through the rest of the mall. So it'll become a nice integrated space lining up with the clock tower heritage site as well. So in the middle of the mall, as mentioned about where the two trees could be removed, these are just showing some examples of the vapour blasting that could happen in that middle section. And again, we'll just be talking to our cultural advisors about that. These are just an early concept of the seating. Just disregard the colour; it's not quite right, but we're looking at making some lovely seating that's integrated around the outside of the trees, so that people can sit all around the trees, and it also allows for some lighting. It doesn't show very well in this plan, but we're proposing a LED strip lighting around the sort of under the seat, if you like, so it's not easily vandalized. And yeah, and we're looking at having a armrest as well as a backrest for the elderly as well. Okay.
Cool. So we are, you'll see in the sign that's on the photo on there, the restrictions for vehicles in the mall and the other restrictions are probably slightly out of date. They've been in there for quite some time. So the slide's just to basically let you know that we are looking into that. It's zoned as a pedestrian mall, so any changes to a pedestrian mall are quite complicated. They have to go through a special consultative procedure and a hearings panel, and then a full council decision as part of the section 336 of the LGA. So we're looking at options to remove the pedestrian mall designation and apply it's called a shared zone. So under the shared zone, we can put exactly the same restrictions in. So there's no, if we wanted to put exactly those times back, then there's no problem to do that. But it just means that if there was a need for a change in the future, we don't have to go back through that massive process. We would just bring report to the community board with traffic resolutions, and it would be part of that. So Under that, we can look at things like allowing cyclists in there, and allowing skateboards in there as well. The dog bylaw stuff is slightly separate. That's a quite different process, so we're looking into that as well. There would be a speed restriction of 10 kilometres per hour down the mall as well. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at. So more information on that will come. We'll probably have to put something into our consultation material that reflects that. And yeah, so hopefully the processes line up, probably not in terms of the approval for the mall upgrade, but in terms of getting it approved, these changes approved before we finish our construction. So still looking into it, but yeah, that's just a bit of a high level comment on that for now. So throughout this, we've been doing some early engagement with some key stakeholders. As Celeste mentioned earlier, the Better for Brighton groups, we've got Rachel from Christchurch NZ here as well. She's been a huge help in linking everyone together, and I think that Better for Brighton group's been really successful. It involves the group that's doing the Village Green, the Harris family through Martini Investments that are doing all the work out here, Celeste and Alex sit in on that, and the staff from Christchurch NZ. So this plan has got the group support, so that's really good. We've also done some early engagement with the New Brighton Seaside Market team, and met with the brewery, and also met
Cool. In terms of consultation and what you can expect, yeah, we're wanting to be quite extensive and take advantage of the summer period with the numerous events. So yeah, in terms of all of the tactics that we're looking at the moment, the one that specific to the board's most of all was the information pack, which is essentially just a combination of key points and pictures and FAQs and things if there's anything that comes from the community, but also that also includes physical material to hand out. We want to make sure that everyone gets information in a way that suits them best, and that includes putting information in libraries and other key community hubs. We're also looking at developing a fly-through image that shows the concept and helps people to visualize the project a bit better, helps show how things will integrate within the area. And we are also looking to, as I said before, really take advantage of those Christmas, pre-Christmas and post-Christmas summer events since Kite Day and Santa Parade, and the working closely with the New Brighton market team will be really invaluable to be able to get the information out there and gather some quick feedback as well. You've probably seen us work with some of the token boxes and things. So being able to just inform most, first and foremost, to the New Brighton community.
So this is our project timeline. So obviously we're at the top here, we're at the 28th of August. Our next step is to talk to some of the other nearby businesses between now and November. And then once the new community board has been inducted in October or whenever that happens, we'll be putting together a memo. We'll include a video of this briefing in that as well, a copy of the slideshow, probably an updated plan. There's likely to be some minor tweaks between now and then, and potentially some of the consultation material and that sort of stuff, just to give people a heads up. So if there are any new board members that want to have a chat with us, we're happy to come out and meet with them as well to make sure that they're up to speed. So community engagement between the 2nd of December and the 1st of February through our Korere Mai Let's Talk page, and we're hoping to be back to the board in late March or early April, depending on how the meeting schedule is set. In the meantime, we're going to be working through a lot of the detailed design on the features that won't be influenced by the community, so that they can all be ready just to speed things up and keep things on track. And then tender and construction, the feedback we got from the market and the brewery is that they'd like construction to start earlier. So if we can do that, we will absolutely be pushing to do that. So this is kind of the latest we think we'll be in construction, but if we can be there earlier, then we absolutely will.
Cool. We've got Celeste, Dogan, Yanni.
The thanks, because again, this has been, I think, example for really good sort of planning.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting once we get to the point of doing the lessons learned around it, of just seeing where we can do the lift and shift in terms of areas like New Brighton, Linwood. I just think it's been a really valuable process, and that extended period of pre-engagement with key stakeholders before you've gotten to the point gives me a huge amount of confidence that we've got into a pretty good point, and now we can continue around some of the other stuff, which is going to be really good. In terms of the engagement stuff, sounds really awesome. Just a couple of questions. So the fly through, brilliant. I'm pleased to see that as part of this. I think those work really well. I just wondered if we could also look at another more interactive way as well, which is sort of like a 3D modelling, where people can look at it on their phone. Sometimes you can do it, see it. Just so I think from a younger perspective, because the technology's out there, it's pretty. If people have the kit, it's pretty straightforward from what I've seen. And there's people in the community that can do that. But whether we could potentially just look at that, because it would be lovely to utilise, where people can actually go, what would it feel like to be in that space? Not just look at I always find plans really hard. I need to kind of stand there and look around and hoping to reach that kind of different group. And then sort of speaking of younger people, I can't quite remember, was that part of this process in terms of like getting their specific input? So
it hasn't been to date, but I think I've mentioned at one of the Better for Brighton meetings, I ran into a whole group from Shirley Boys that were out doing a geography assignment and chatted to them quite a bit. So I did talk to them about what they'd like to see. A lot of their feedback was it just needs to look better because it looks rubbish. And a whole lot of teenage boys didn't have a whole lot of feedback for me on this. I did give them all my details to come back to me if they had anything that they'd like to share. So I think I've still got the teacher's email address, and I think it was still this year. So if we can get it out to them and get some of their feedback, that would be really good. But we haven't specifically gone and talked to those groups just yet. Yeah.
Sorry, just to quickly add to that as well, in terms of the key stakeholders in the whole area, I mean, it wasn't highlighted in the list, but we'll be including schools, like local schools, into those whole lists.
And maybe even if there was, whether through it's that 3D platform or something, or even bringing a group down, it'd be cool to just see like quite a targeted approach as well as the general one, because I think sometimes when we put out the general one, still don't get that uptake, which is a shame. And getting girls and boys, because they tend to have different views on public space. Just a few other things. The events team, because I think this is going to be quite a critical event space, which is awesome.
Yeah, we have tried to engage with them a couple of times. They didn't have, their feedback to date was that their main events, which are Kite Day and the fireworks, aren't so much focused in the mall. And they believed that any upgrades that we were doing would be great. It's probably more the local events that council's events team doesn't run. So that'll be like the community development advisors and rec advisors that are engaging with the local community. But we do see it as an event space that we're looking to see putting plugs and things like that to enable it in the future. We do have the Village Green next door, and we don't want to take away from what they're doing. They've invested quite a lot of money in that. And we see our space is kind of working alongside them. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course we might attract the buskers, for instance, more events, so making sure that we link with Christchurch or whoever's kind of the fronting that stuff.
A lot of the stuff around the events team was around talking to them about rubbish capacity for big events. So when we've put our plans in place we've put our rubbish bins on our plans, that's on the basis that we could add extra wheelie bins for big events next to it, so they could bank up together rather than sort of being all over the show and sort of ad hoc. So that's kind of the idea there.
Yeah, so I did discover how complex it's all, just a couple more. Changing the designation, it sounds really onerous, but it was
It's very onerous.
So I'm supportive of that. And finally, just looking at the wider area planning, I know it's outside of the scope of the project, but just mentioning it now, is there a way that we can, when the new board comes back together, just sort of get a check-in on things like the bus exchange, because council's community board did ask for that to be looked at, and rather than just an interim option, actually going,
that's
we put the bus stop.
Yeah, that is part of that wider study that we are doing on Auramab, and we will come back to the board in due course about that.
Good.
It's not so much targeted at a bus station though. It's more about the network connections.
Yeah.
Because I think we really need to bring ACAN into that conversation about where the bus hubs need to be, and their routes, and they're doing their route reviews and all of those types of things. So I think it's really important that that's part of that report that we are doing.
Great, it'd be good to sort of align that, because we did have a conversation with ACAN not that long ago about that, and sort of wanting to speed that process up now that we're going to have lots of people coming here and wanting to bus with it and bikes.
No, that's very cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Celeste. Jo?
Thank you. A couple of things. With the pavers, are you using a special slip-proof paver?
Yes, we, the pavers will be probably the first pavers that we have been using previously in the other part of the mall as well, that should be up to code with no,
slippery people with jandals on.
Right, yes.
And with the alcohol ban area that's currently in place, how do we get around that if there are people drinking?
They've got their designated, they're not allowed to drink in the mall. It's prohibited activity.
So that will be included with the signage and everything?
The signage up there now, so it'll just be new, making the signage nicer, replacement of that. The Southport Brewery's got their alcohol licence area, so people aren't allowed to take their drinks past their boundary. And that's part of their liquor licence, I believe. We absolutely won't be encouraging drinking throughout the rest of the mall.
And construction damage, with other places may get pulled down and rebuilt and everything. How are we safeguarding against that could possibly happen to the new stuff in the mall?
We usually try and get that as if there's a new building or old building coming down, that will be looked at that stage, so that if there's already new pavers there, they need to be protected, and if they're not, they'll have to be replaced.
Because we have had this happen before with things happening in the mall, and all of a sudden something happens and it just gets ripped in, or and it's like, well, that was a waste of money.
Well, the good thing about these pavers will be on a flexible base, which means that you can lift them, and then they should be able to be placed back in the same place as previously. So if there's any services that need to be looked at, rather than someone coming in and patching with asphalt or anything, they should be lifting up the pavers carefully, fixing the services, and then putting the pavers back in, so you shouldn't see any damage or
I'm just thinking if they demolish the old Save Mart building,
yes,
how would that impact on the new stuff?
They'll be obliged to protect that.
And with the fish playground, are you aware that the people got the memorial park there?
I've got their details.
Thank you.
I did touch base with them a wee while ago, and I've got a note to touch base with them after this meeting as well. So
awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Jo. Yanni, one question?
Thank you. This is really cool. So I'll just a very quick question, a bit more detailed question. I was just interested to know how much the budget is.
So it's roughly 4 million across the whole. Hang on, I wrote it down. So I knew you were going to ask this. One moment. So the entire budget, so we have spent some of it obviously on investigations and some other stuff. So the entire budget was 4.2 million. So we've got 3.8 remaining.
Is it just for this?
Yeah, there's a lot of underground services and things, that add to that budget.
What I was going to ask in terms of the bigger picture, because it's great that you're doing all this work around cultural narrative and this, trying to have a sense of identity with like connecting to Marine Parade. And I just wondered, like, how much of this in terms of the work could be utilised to get some sort of common imagery, cultural narrative to the Pages Road Bridge, like, extending it further with the same sorts of schematics that you've got, so it kind of tells a story rather than just everything being done.
I can talk to the Pages. My team leader is the Pages Road Bridge project manager, so I can ask him about that. I know that they're pretty set in stone with what they've got, and they've gone through their procurement plan and their whole business case and everything. So there may not be. I'm not sure what they've done in terms of their cultural narrative, but we're happy. We haven't actually got a specific one for the Brighton Mall. We're utilising the cultural narrative that was done for the hot pools, because it was done for that general area.
Cool.
So we can, make sure that Matt's aware of it. I don't know whether they can, but I can pass it on.
But also timed into the pier with lighting and stuff.
I think that would be nice, and hopefully you can have some street art or something like that too.
Okay. Last question from Greg. I'm sorry, and Celeste.
The 10 remaining farms, are they all in a good healthy state?
They're not particularly good. We're going to get them trimmed up. They're not like in really bad decline, but they're not perfect. So one of the suggestions we've had is that we could get some drip irrigation in around those circular seats that we're looking at, and that we think that that would help make them, come away a wee bit better than they have been. But we are
And the two that are coming out, are they in the worst state, or would they be
not
in the best state and potentially go replace the others?
Not necessarily the best state, they're probably they're all in similar conditions.
They're all in the same conditions.
Yeah.
Oh, absolute years, they could go on for a long time. Yeah. Yeah.
They were all transplanted to put there in the year 2000, so yeah.
Sorry, I'll jump in.
Celeste quickly.
I know we discussed this ages ago, but were there ever any sort of the original elements that we came across that were in good?
I asked those questions, and Maria said that she was pretty sure there was nothing in Pages Road, because they were taken out in the year, they would have been taken out sort of 99, 2000. So yeah, I'm not sure we've got too much from them. We've got a lot of stuff from the earthquake times, but not back that far.
And there is nothing in the design currently. I love the design, it's great. But is there anything in the design that kind of harks back to some of those sort of elements, because there's quite a retro feel with the rest of the mall.
We've thought about it, and we will definitely be looking into how we can integrate some of those ideas of the old New Brighton Mall. But
they were very primary coloured focused, and talking to like the Village Green team and Martini Investments, that's not the kind of colour scheme that they're going with. And we thought if we put something that was those bright primary colours back in, it would really clash with what they're doing, and we're trying to all work together and integrate and have a similar sort of colour scheme.
Maybe even just sort of the feel rather than the colour. I don't think that those elements were put in, say, the 90s, but just that kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, we have sort of looked at what we could include, but we're quite restricted with the way that like vehicles need to be able to go, emergency services and delivery vehicles need to be able to access the mall. So that sort of prohibits anything from being put in that central area. And then like we've heard from the community that the market is just so important. So yeah, creating clutter in space. Yeah, we've got the all brand new street light poles going in. So there's already sort of stuff in between the trees, so trying to work around to try and make sure there's space for all the activities that need to go in there. We did actually look at the old lighting that was there in its heyday, but they're all like big round glass globes, and I don't think they'll last very long. But also they light up too much, and you've got to have the light facing down. So yeah.
Thanks. Is it a quick question, Tim?
Have you spoken, it'd be not a good idea to speak of the New Brighton Districts Museum if there's room to put permanent displays somewhere.
Probably isn't room for permanent displays, but there's potential for displays. Yeah, so they could go in there. I guess it depends on what the community wants in that space, and whether they want to have, to have lots of different things in there, or but that could be feedback that we get.
And there's one that could be just changed.
Okay, this is definitely the last question from Joe. Right, quick.
In regards to the surfboard seats that are around the playground at the moment, should they be actually reused further down the mall because the other ones are deteriorating?
Yeah, they could.
Yeah,
good idea. Yeah, they could.
Because there's some that the wood's falling apart, whereas I think the ones there are actually quite good condition compared to the other ones.
Yes. Yeah. We have looked at what seats we put to you'll see next to the Village Green, there's 2 seats shown there, whether they're the surfboard ones or other ones moved from towards the Marine Parade end. Yeah. But we don't want to,
some of the wood's just getting all quite rotten and they need to be replaced.
Right. Okay. Yeah, they can definitely be changed over.
Thank you very much. It looks absolutely brilliant. I'm looking forward to seeing the result. I have learnt today that saying last question is a cue to put their hands up.
Apologies about having to keep the plans back. You will be sent.
All right. Board members, please don't dash off. We've got we have a karakia, and then we need to stick around for a minute, please.
Sorry, that's spelling of the name.
Kia tau, tau rangamari e. O tirani, I nei, o papa tuanaku te, tapu nei, o si afi nei, I runga, I a tatu, si hei, mauri ora. So